What's the weirdest thing that you've seen at someone's house that they thought was completely normal? I was invited over to a friend's house for dinner for the first time. Now, for staging purposes, they all sit around the living room to eat as a family. They have these two large dogs. So I asked beforehand, as I always do, what the rules are with the dogs and food. Am I supposed to ignore begging? Can I give them a bite? What kind of stuff can I feed them? Do they have to do a trick to get some? They tell me that not only can I feed them whatever I want, but that all the plates are given to the dogs after the meal and that the dogs would hassle you if you took the plates straight to the kitchen. So I finish my meal, which was decent, and I lay my plate down for the dogs. They clean it up quite nicely. I pick it up to take to the kitchen and I ask if it goes in the sink or the dishwasher. They said to put it back in the cabinet because the dogs clean it good enough to eat off of. I laughed at the joke and then kinda reiterated my question. It wasn't a joke. My friend walked into the kitchen and put her plate, her boyfriend's plate, and her mom and dad's plate all in the cabinet with the other clean dishes. I could have been sick. I dropped all contact with them. That was just too much. Yelling from the bathroom. Where do you guys keep the toilet paper? Just let the dogs take care of it. Knew a person in college whose father had this friend that would always come over right before dinner time and stay long enough that he knew they'd invite him to stay to eat. After a while of handing out free meals to this guy, they decided that they would let the dogs clean the dishes after dinner and put them back in the cabinet. When he asked about it, they responded, "Well, we usually leave that until after you've left, but we're comfortable enough around you now to do it when you're still here." After he left, they scrubbed the fuck out of the dishes, and he never came over to eat again. Once when I was a kid, I was invited to stay over for dinner at a friend's house. My friend's mother poured a large quantity of ketchup into a cereal bowl, which the entire family all casually dipped their fingers into and licked throughout the meal. They were testing you. Maybe they didn't want you to ever come back over. A white carpeted kitchen. This was when I was a kid. I was at my friend's house, and her mom got us some orange juice with our lunch. When we finished eating, she took the remaining juice from the cups and poured it back into the container. Even as a kid, I thought it was disgusting. The last glass of juice in that container would probably be mostly backwash. Just awful. Why is there pulp in this no pulp OJ? They keep a sewing needle pin stuck into their hand towel. I found it by reaching to use the hand towel to dry my hands and putting the pin through my finger. I was like, what a fat guys, and they just shrugged as in, you don't have sharp objects hiding in towels? They then went on to explain that it was used for draining pimples. This is how you get hepatitis. Kids in the home going to the fridge, grabbing a stick of butter, unwrapping it, taking a big bite, rewrapping and putting it back. My daughter eats butter. I can't keep it on the table because she'll find a way to get her hands all up in its business. It's fucking weird. When my brother and I were kids, we would often comment that our next door neighbor's house smelled like pee. One day my brother was playing video games with the kid from next door, at his house, and asked to use the restroom. The kid said, "We just pee here," and started peeing in the closet. My brother peed in there too. We pee in the closet and use the bathroom as a breakfast nook. I met this kid in 3rd grade and he seemed normal. Cool kid. Funny. Anyway, I go to his house to work on a school project and his mother was a hoarder. Worst of the worst. She could have a marathon of the hoarders in her own home. I guess the kid thought it was normal because he had been living in it since he was born. He was kinda disheartened when he came to my house and didn't have to climb over mounds of trash to take a piss. A good high school friend's mom was a hoarder. We had to navigate narrow corridors through all the piled junk to get to his room. His tidy, Spartan, immaculately clean room. Did he get yelled at for his clean room? Billy, you are not going to play with your friends until your room is a pigsty like the rest of this house. Many of us do our best not to become our parents. You can learn from everything, even if it is just learning how not to live. Kind of weird, more sad than anything. A family I babysat for as a teenager had a little dog, maybe a Yorkie, but they kept it in a cage all the time. And whenever they let it out, the dog would go crazy and would be wagging its adorable little tail and running around in circles so fast. To me, This was understandable because it had so much pent-up energy. But that enraged this family, and they would almost immediately put it back in the cage because the dog was misbehaving. It was devastating. Whenever I went over there, I gave that dog so much attention. And I ended up dog sitting it for a week. I went over there as much as I could to play with him and walk him. I asked the family before they left if it was cool if I took the dog on walks. And they said something along the lines of, "Yeah, that's cool, but we never have done that before, so he'll probably go crazy." I was too young to realize that I should have said something to someone about how this dog was being neglected, but I didn't. Instead, I gave him all the love I could within those few times I was there, and cried almost every time I left because the dog just looked so dejected. If I ever get an animal, I'm going to give it so much love, because seeing that dog broke my heart. I stole a kitten once in high school, because I went to a party, friend of a friend of a friend, and this total doucher was joking around about this stupid animal and swinging it around by its neck skin, and then he threw it across the room and laughed and kicked it pretty hard. There was no food or litter box or water. He was a college student and the house was a hellhole. It was so gross and he was being so horrible, and I was so fucking mad I just grabbed the kitten, walked straight out and took her home with me. She lived a happy and long life and I loved her dearly. She hated everyone but me, and I can see why. Who the fuck could throw around a little baby kitten and call it names? Why? I went to a friend's house and they had their halls lined with grandfather clocks. This was a little weird but nothing major. The weird part came when his dad told me and my friend, "Don't you kids go around telling anybody about my clocks." Now he'll never forget about his precious clocks. Now we all know about his clocks, you realize. You're really in the shit now. My neighbor was super into grandfather clocks. Turns out his collection was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that was the reason he didn't want anyone to know. When he passed, many went to a museum. Paramedic here. 102-liter soda bottles filled with urine, because the toilet is broken. But where was he pooping? Where was he pooping? Edit, thought it was obvious but apparently not. This was in the course of my job duties, hence mentioning I'm a paramedic. Context. No yard, 3-story walk-up apartment/flop house. No work. The guy was very much unemployed and it took a police committal to get him to leave his apartment, which was immediately condemned. There was also sadly a cat and animal control involved. Also bedbugs, but those are a given. Sadly, mental health issues can make the weirdest behavior seem normal. I had a friend who did this. He'd shit in a pizza box, then take the box outside and put it in the bin for his building. It was a couple of months before he realized the pizza boxes had his name and flat number written on them. Did a couple of tours in Iraq and went in hundreds of houses. Common thing was if they had a DVD player or some other kind of electronic device, they would always keep the styrofoam packing on the device. I don't know if they thought it was part of the DVD player or if it prevent dust from entering. Also saw a great number of what I call barn people. Pretty much kids that are too dysfunctional and mentally challenged to live with the rest of the family. So they keep them in the barn or shed. Pretty sad. Most likely that they were trying to keep it in good condition. Stuff like that is fairly common in parts of the world where things like DVD players are a big deal. Went to a party in college and the kid living there had boxes of Cat Fancy magazine cataloged by month and year all over his room. When I asked about it, the dude just shrugged and said, "I'm into cats." I was too nervous to ask more. Had a friend in high school. Went to his house for the first time and everything smelled like piss. Turns out he had a dog and his family never bothered to potty train or clean up after it. Everything in the house was covered in old dried up urine and fresh puddles. While I was there, the dog peed on my friend's bed, and he didn't even care. He literally sleeps in his dog's piss. Even I got pissed on. Never went to his house again. Not me. But when my dad was younger, he went to a friend's house who had a hallway with nude family pictures. I know a chick who has 2 pictures proudly displayed in her house. One of her slightly tool-to-be nursing kid, sucking away at her tit. One of her, topless on a bike. Both pics are sort of arty and cool, but her boy is 10 years old now. I have to wonder how he feels about growing up with those pics in his living room. My friend refuses to vacuum, and her carpet is covered in a layer of loose hair. I know a guy whose entire home has a layer of dog and cat hair on everything. He told me, if I vacuum the hair, there's gonna be hair on everything in like 30 minutes, so I just don't vacuum it. What's the strangest thing you've seen in someone's home? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.